As soon as they left the synagogue, they went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they immediately told Jesus about her. So he went to her, took her hand, and helped her up. The fever left her, and she began to wait on them. That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all who were ill and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was.
COVID-19. I wonder how tired you are of hearing that phrase. Over the last 18 months or so, it's been almost invariably headline news in the newspapers, on TV, all over social media. It seems there's nowhere you can go to get away from it. Even in our churches, it's not long before a conversation turns to the subject of the pandemic. And I have to say that over the last 18 months or so, I have been particularly concerned about the effect of all of this on people, their well-being, their mental health and their physical health. I am obviously concerned about how this affects our community here, but I'm particularly concerned about the effect on our churches and our congregations. And I have been enormously frustrated by what seems to be endless restrictions, which have been quite necessary, but they stopped us doing the work of being and doing church. We did think differently, and we tried to do the work of church in a different way. It was a little patchy sometimes, it was a little bit hit and miss sometimes, but we were trying to do the work of church. As I stand at the front of our churches and I look across the faces in our congregations, as I wander around and look into the faces of the people I pass, I see a whole range of emotions. I see people who are discouraged or despairing. I see some people who are quite frankly still frightened by the whole thing. But also as I stand at the front of our churches and I look into the faces of people, I see a group of faithful people. Those who are surviving the pandemic. Those who want to fight back. Those who want to beat the pandemic. I see a glimmer and a spark of hope in the faces of people I meet. The passage we just heard from Mark's Gospel, we see Jesus visiting the home of Simon Peter. And in that home, Simon Peter's mother-in-law is ill with a fever. She is restricted by her fever. She is bedbound. Now, she is the person who would normally have looked after Jesus and the disciples. As they arrived, she would have cared for them. She would have helped them to wash their feet, and she would have fed them. But she was restricted. She was prevented from doing so because of her illness. Jesus approaches her and she is made well. And it seems that almost immediately she starts looking after Jesus and his disciples, and she is feeding them as well. I think there is a parallel in this passage to our church and to our communities. We have been restricted physically and mentally in doing and being church. What we need to do is to approach Jesus, and then we, like Simon Peter's mother-in-law, can be healed of the things that are restricting us and stopping us doing the work of church. To do that, we need to approach Jesus. That isn't hard because he's by our side all the time. We just need to open our eyes and turn round and face him, because he is there waiting for us to do just that, and he is waiting to heal us of anything that is preventing us from doing the work of church. So I would like to suggest that we do just that. Open our eyes, turn to face Jesus with a renewed vigour, with a renewed faith, with a renewed energy, and then Let us get out there and do the work of being and doing church. And I know that this is important, because when we read further on in that passage from Mark, we see that the whole town turns out and approaches Jesus themselves. If we can turn to Jesus, and if we can be healed, and if we can do the work of being and doing church, there is every likelihood that lots of people will be attracted to Jesus. And wouldn't that be a marvellous thing? So let's turn to Jesus afresh. Let's be refreshed by him. Let's allow the Holy Spirit to refresh the work of the church. And then let us leave the rest to God. I pray that God will bless us with his Holy Spirit as he renews our spirit, renews our energy to be and to do church in this place. Amen.